What's good, everyone? Welcome back to My First Kicks. This is episode 136, and this week we welcome Wayne, aka TapinKicks, to the podcast. If you aren't familiar with him, or you probably are because he has a lot of followers, but he is a content creator who gives you early looks into sneakers, much like Seth. But it's just he's been doing it for a little bit longer, and a lot of his content is interesting as well. Again, because like getting first looks at rare stuff is interesting because I'm not a big like collector of like rare kicks, but it's really cool to see some of the stuff we talk about. Him posting a pair of the Utopia special edition or limited edition Travis Scott lows, and I was like, whoa, what's that? But if you aren't familiar with him, definitely go give him a follow. And because this is very like the next episode after Ant, aka Eric Conway, this is his cousin, so it's very hilarious. I had Ant on, and then we talked, and then we chopped it up, and we're still talking, and he's pitching me guests and helping me get guests on. So immediately Tapin jumped in, and we connected, and I gave him some tips. He hooked me up with tips also because I am not social media savvy. I try my best, but I don't want to make it like a laborer's job for me. So it's just we chopped it up, and I learned a lot. Not in the episode in terms of just like social media, but I learned a lot about him in the episode. But I learned a lot after we spoke, and hopefully you'll see that reflected into the pages coming soon. Speaking of which, I have updated the YouTube to be more cool. I added thumbnails to every single episode that is up. I also added some background. I'm gonna try to like incorporate that color scheme and those graphics into anything or as much as possible. Hopefully you'll see it in this episode too if I get around to it. If not, I'm sorry, I sold you a false bill of goods. But in the coming months, and like I told other people who have bigged me up on this upgrade, I do what I can with the time that I'm given. So if if I level up, it's definitely going to be at a not as like tomorrow you're going to get crazy graphics on the episodes, you're going to get sound effects and stuff like that. No, if I get around to it, I'll do it because as I don't get paid for this, so I'm using it as more of a learning experience slash just creative outlet. And I appreciate everybody for listening every week. As I said last week, and I'm going to continue to say that. I mean, 136 episodes. Some of y'all have been here since day one. Some of y'all have just jumped in just for this episode. So on to where you can find Tapin. You can find him on all social medias as Tapping, TapinKicks. That's TapinKicks. Follow him, and hopefully you'll see a lot more content. Definitely, he's been doing events. We talk about him doing an event, and hopefully we'll do more collaborations in the future because he's really a great guy. And of course, you know where to find me. I am Who Is Haas on all social medias. Follow the podcast and My First Kicks. Follow the podcast on TikTok and YouTube at My First Kicks. Please, please, please subscribe, like, and subscribe every single video you see there, even the shorts. It will go and help me tremendously as I try to expand my little empire. And of course, if you have a My First Kick story, hit me up. I would love to read it to a guest. myfirstkickspod@gmail.com, or send it to me in the DMs. And if you do send me a DM, please comment on a clip or something. Say that you DM me and that you listen to the podcast. So I can check, because sometimes they just get filtered into like requests or something like that. So if you're trying to get in contact with me, hit me up on the podcast page because you will get me. And on to this week's guest, TapinKicks, or Wayne. Yeah. But before we jump into this episode, I want to talk to you about Drops and Collect by Soul Savvy. With Drops and Collect, you are able to stay ahead of the game. Using Drops, you can enter raffles and set alerts for any restocks Well, I can't stop it anyway. Whatever. Before we jump into the episode, I want to talk to you about Drops and Collect by Soul Savvy. With Drops and Collect, you'll be able to stay ahead of the game. Using Drops, you can enter raffles and set alarms for any restocks. It would also help you to never miss a release ever again. I mean, my notifications on, and every morning my notifications go crazy. It's right before 10 o'clock. And after you cop some fresh kicks, use Collect to manage your collection. I'm still in the process of adding my kicks. I mean, I have a ton, but it's fine. But what's cool about Collect is that you can also make trades with no fees if you're a current member. But don't worry, if you aren't a member, you just have to pay a flat rate of $8. Now, how do you get these apps? Just use the links in the description of this podcast. Download these apps and grow your collection by also helping the podcast. That's right. Just use the links in the description and start expanding your collection today. Hey, Tapin, welcome to the podcast.
How you doing, man?
Yo, man, it's awesome because Conway, I had Conway. You're literally the episode before you is Conway, Ant, that you call him Ant. I don't know if I'm allowed to call him Ant yet, but I had Conway on, and he was like, "Yo, you should have my boy Tapping on," and I was just like, "Oh yeah, no problem." And then he connected. I guess he hit you up because I hit you, and you left me already. Not just like he didn't leave me already. He didn't see.
Yeah, that's my bad, man. He definitely told me ahead of time that you would be hitting me up, and I did not see your DM. But it's all good. We're here now. Happy to be here having this conversation with you.
No, yeah, man, huge honor. But for people who aren't familiar with you, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, man, no problem. So my name is Wayne. I run TapinKicks on Instagram. TapinKicks is a sneaker source where I post, news, information, release dates.
Mhm.
And it's just a way for, my followers and my family and my friends just to stay tapped in, into the sneaking community. Um, Something that I enjoy, something I've always been into. As you stated, my cousin Conway, as you call him, but I call him Ant.
Mhm.
He's my inspiration when it comes to shoes. He's always that guy that I've been trying to keep up with. And that's he's one of the reasons why I started Tap In. I've been doing it for a little over 4 years now. I just started. I'm sorry, I didn't start. I just hit over 55,000 followers,
Mhm.
and things are going well, man. We're continuing to grow, and it's just fun, man. It's something that I'm enjoying to do, and I'm gonna keep going, man. The sky's the
Yeah.
limit.
I mean, I go to your page and I'm like, man, I haven't seen some of the stuff you be posting. I'm like, this is crazy. Like the one because I didn't even know that pair existed of the Utopia Travis Scott lows, and I was like,
Yeah,
this is wild. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah, I spend a lot of my time, searching the discovery page, and I'm on
Mhm.
YouTube, and I go on Discords, and I look for things that people don't see all the time. And that's one of the ways how I try to set myself apart. Because obviously there's a bunch of sneaker blogs, right?
Mhm.
And essentially you almost recycling the pictures almost. So what I try to do is I try to, find, audio that people might not have heard in a while.
Mhm.
I'll play like a shoulder lean, or I'll play like some OTI,
Mhm.
just to catch the listener's ear as they're scrolling Instagram,
Mhm.
and they'll stop and they'll watch the video, and that's how I try to set myself apart.
Nah, I
Man.
mean, yeah, yeah, I mean, it's successful. It's a successful page. So I was like, when Ant or Conway put me on, I was like, yeah, you can totally jump on.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, I mean, but you're here to answer the question that I ask everybody each week, and that question is, what's your first kicks? What's that first pair of sneakers you absolutely needed to have?
Oh, that's easy, man.
Hmm.
So I actually do have the pairs, if you don't mind me showing them.
Yeah, of course. Pull them out. Bring them out. Bring them out.
Um, so I'll start with the Cherry 12s.
Hmm.
Um, this is actually unofficially my first pair of Jordans. Um, these are the 2009 versions.
Hmm.
Got these when I was a freshman in high school back in 2009. Um, I'm not sure if you're from the the area or not. Are you
No,
familiar with the DMV? Go
I'm
ahead.
not from the area, but I mean, the only time we talked about it on his episode, the only time I've been to the DMV area was to go to Joe's Crab Shack. Not Joe's Crab Shack, my bad. Jimmy's Seafood. Wow,
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna get hurt for that one because, but yeah, I've been to Maryland just for Jimmy's Seafood, and I mean, I don't know if Ocean City, Maryland counts at all, but I've been there. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, the reason I asked is
Hmm.
because I was going to, explain, where I got them, how I acquired them, and everything. But I'll start with why I needed to have them, right? So I attended Bishop McNamara High School.
Hmm.
It's in Forestville, Maryland, private school, Catholic school, alma mater. My that's my fan right there.
Yeah.
Um, but when I was a freshman, after school, or let me start over. We would wear uniforms,
Hmm.
right? And our uniform shoe was a Sperry, right? So after school, we would take off. Well, a lot of the upperclassmen would take off, those Sperry's, and
Hmm.
they'll put on a more comfortable shoe, whether it be a New Balance, Adidas, Jordan, Nike, or they will put on, one of those shoes that are, kind of sought after. And I saw a senior, I don't remember his name, but he had these particular Cherry 12s, and I just had to have them. I fell in love with them. So I had asked my mom, after school one day, I believe, it was after basketball practice,
Hmm.
to see if we can go get those shoes. So we went down to St. Charles Mall, which is in Waldorf, Maryland. So maybe if your DMV listeners are listening, they'll know what Waldorf is.
Hmm.
But down in St. Charles Mall, back then in 2009, they had a bunch of shoe stores, whether it be Champs, Foot Locker, DTLR, Finish Line, Foot Action. That's when the sneaker stores are actually booming. The Jordans are still sitting on the shelves.
Hmm.
Not as much now. Um, but yeah, so we went to Champs down in St. Charles, and she actually got me and my younger brother a pair. Surprised me. Normally my mom, she tells me no when it comes to buying Jordans, things like that, but she actually bought these for me. I still have them to this day. I haven't worn them in a while, but
Hmm.
as you know, they're coming back out this year.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm looking forward to getting a new pair of the 2023 present. So yeah, this is one of my girls, one of my babies, and I'll always have this shoe.
Man, I love that. I love that. And for the listeners, I'm gonna give a little synopsis of the Air Jordan 12 Retro Cherries from 2009. It's a retro of a 1997 original colorway worn by Michael Jordan during his fifth NBA championship season. The white leather upper features a gym red texture mudguard. Uh, the white leather upper features a gym red textured up mudguard, which blends into the sole. The heel features the numbers 23 in white against a red backdrop, while the black and red outsole is ribbed in the middle to reveal a zigzag pattern. Yeah, I mean, 12s. I don't have a pair of 12s,
Hmm.
and I mean, maybe the taxis is probably like the ones I would probably want, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a classic. Like, it's a shoe that, like, once it dropped, right? Like in 2009 when they were doing those, that, like, they did the taxis, I think in 2009. Am I forgetting? No, no, no. They didn't do taxis in 2009. But I know, like, in that 2000 era,
Yeah.
like, they were dropping 12s, and I mean in high school. That's when I was in high school. So like everybody was rocking 12s. So yeah.
Yeah, man. They were hot back then. I remember getting the Cherry 12s, the flu games, the
Hmm.
playoffs. So yeah, back then 12s were definitely hot. And it's one of my favorite silhouettes. They run a tad big, so
Hmm.
if you need to, you can go size down, half size down. They're comfortable. And yeah, man, you can't go wrong with a pair of 12s.
Nah, yeah. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, I think that it's a sleek shoe that it's you can tell that it was made for the court, but like it just looks good also, and just like some dope jeans.
Yeah,
I mean, 2000s people were swimming in jeans in those, but
yeah,
like
yeah.
the joints is like seven times big. But you grew up in the DMV area your whole life.
Yeah, yeah, man. I'm from originally from Cheltenham, Maryland,
Hmm.
but that's just right outside of Upper Marlboro, Maryland. So I tell people who are more familiar with the area, hey, I'm from Upper Marlboro.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, born and raised here. I spent time in DC, which is just up the street. at my grandparents' house, and my mom's side of the family. Um, as I was stated, I went to St. John's Middle School in
Hmm.
Clinton, Maryland. Then I went to Bishop McNamara in Forestville, Maryland. I started college down in South Carolina playing football.
Okay.
But yeah, played tight end at Benedict College, but that didn't last long.
Oh.
Yeah, the love for the game was evident, wasn't evident. So
Was
yeah, that
there a
didn't.
moment? Was there a moment that you just like, oh man, it's not for me? You just like,
Yeah, man. I'll start at McNamara.
yeah.
So playing at McNamara, I played basketball for the most part of my life.
Hmm.
But my coaches always recruited me to play football because of my size. So I tried football out my senior year. With my athletic ability, I was able to turn some heads, if you may.
Hmm.
And I was able to acquire an off when I acquired, I was able to get a scholarship to Benedict College, full ride. Surprised me. Didn't surprise some of my coaches because they saw the potential, but I was just playing for fun.
Hmm.
Um, Went down there, did well my first year, played, um, and then I decided to transfer and come to Morgan State out in Baltimore.
Hmm.
Um, my plan was to try out for the team, but mind you, Benedict College was a D2, Morgan was a D1.
Hmm.
Totally different atmosphere, totally different program.
Yeah.
Um, so I went through the conditioning drills, went through one or two practices, but when we got that playbook and I saw how big that playbook was, what I was required to learn,
Right.
as far as all of the plays on offense.
Hmm.
And at that time I was trying out, I was just walking on, so I was also required to know defense.
Right.
Said, yeah, I don't think this is for me. So playing in high school, it was fun playing with your buddies, lifelong friends. But
Hmm.
when you go to college, it's essentially you're playing for a job, right? It's a scholarship, but you're playing. These coaches, this is their salary. A lot of these other players, they're playing for scholarships.
Hmm.
So it's definitely a different level of play. And I quickly learned this wasn't for me. So I ultimately gave it up when I went to Morgan my sophomore year, and I haven't played controlled sports since. But I still stay in the gym now.
Of course, you gotta hit the gym. But like, I mean, so like, go back in high school. I mean, I feel like high school is like a lot where it's like the pivotal moment where people figure out their style or just start getting into things. So like, you went to a private high school as well,
Yes,
and
yes.
and then like that. Like, what was like the freedom of like everybody else was switching out and stuff like that? When was that moment where you were just like, "I, I'm a stun on them," or like, or is this just like you kind of like try to slink through every year, like because some people, because I went to private school once for like two grades, and
Right.
there was like a mix of like so some people pulling out crazy J's because they have money,
Yeah.
and then there's some people that just be like, you know what, I'm gonna just wear the some black, like you just need black shoes, so you just try to like slink in the back and just not try to point any attention to your sneakers at all time for like the whole year.
Yeah. 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 So it was definitely a few dudes in each grade that
Mhm.
you knew was a sneaker guy, right? So we had dress down days, various Fridays. I want to say maybe every other Friday,
Mhm.
they allowed us to have a dress down day. And that's normally when you would see, a lot of your classmates and your friends, they would pull out their Jordans. Back then, back in 2009, I'm not sure if you remember, well, 2009 through 2013,
Mhm.
phone pauses were booming,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of people pretty much had to choose. You either saw people, go to the phone side, or you had people go to the Jordan side. You really couldn't do both.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that was pretty much what you would see from me when I was young. Surprisingly, I had a few pairs of Jordans, as I stated, my Cherry 12s, but I elected to go the foam route. For me, with the price being 200,
Yeah.
I just thought with me having the more expensive shoe, I would be looked at as more of the cooler guy.
Mhm.
So I elected to pass on, I remember Black Cement threes and Cherry 13s, shoes that I would never pass on today.
Mhm.
Back in 2009 through 13, I was passing on those shoes left and right behind all of the phone pauses. And ultimately, I decided to get rid of those as I
Mhm.
got older because they aren't as comfortable. Obviously, they're not as hot anymore.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, back then it was definitely you had to choose the J's or the phone pauses.
I
So
mean, shoot, it's the same thing for here because I mean, I was gonna say tri-state, but it's like East Coast. Like, I mean, we're all along the East Coast, and I feel like that's what was taking over during that time too, of just like foams and Jordans. It was mostly just that, and then once you started going down to like lower to like Florida, around that area, everybody's just wearing like Barclays
Hmm.
and like uptowns. Well, Air Force Ones. I don't know what y'all call them over there,
Yeah,
but
Air Force Ones.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
I
name.
mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't because I feel like every area calls them something else, and I feel like
right,
like we call them uptowns over here because you have to go
right.
uptown to go get them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know, what did you guys call Air Force Ones in Maryland?
I call them Air Force Ones. Most of my friends call them Air Force Ones, but when people would call them Uptowns,
Hmm.
I would know what they were talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, in this area, Air Force One was the name.
Well, I've always heard that like DMV area is big on New Balance. Were you ever? Did you ever jump on that?
Yeah, yeah. I had a pair of 990s.
Mhm.
I want to say I also had a pair of 993s. But it was more for, just for a comfortable look for me. I didn't, wear it every day. It was more
Mhm.
so like, after I, would practice or after, basketball games when I would travel and things like that, I would wear my New Balances. Um, I probably wore them casually for the most part, but as I stated, I like wearing my phone posits, man. I
Mhm.
wasn't really big with the New Balances, but I did have pairs, yes.
What did you ball in?
So we normally had team shoes,
Oh, okay.
but outside of that, I did ball at Kobe's. I like low top. I like lighter shoes.
Mhm.
I also balled in LeBron's. I remember back in I think my sophomore year, my shoe of preference was the LeBron 7 Christmas.
Mhm.
Our colors were maroon and gold. And LeBron 7 Christmas was a black upper with the kind of a maroon bottom.
Yeah.
And there was like orange laces that I would wear, and I thought it fit my uniform pretty well. So those are my preferred shoes. LeBron sevens and Kobe fours.
Mhm.
I think that was the number. Yeah.
Did you have to get like, what was the earliest or your first job that you were like, all right, cool, I'm gonna buy some kicks with?
Oh, funny story, man. So as I stated, when I stopped playing ball,
Mhm.
remember, well, I guess I didn't go into that detail, but in high school, I didn't have a job, right?
Okay.
So I would always ask my dad to buy
Yeah.
me shoes. So if I ever, had a new pair of shoes, shout out to my dad. He always made sure I was laced up.
Mhm.
But when I got to college, he pretty much told me, I'm not buying you any more shoes.
Mhm.
So after my freshman year at Benedict playing football, I came to Morgan. I decided I wasn't playing anymore. I remember that conversation with my dad, like, damn, I still want to get my shoes. So I started working at Walmart.
Okay.
and my and I actually chose a Walmart kind of far away from where I was going to school at Morgan. I was
Mhm.
actually in Dundalk, Maryland.
I
Not
mean,
sure if
that's
you,
smart. That's
yeah.
smart because you don't
So I
want to be
never,
like, you don't want to be
I
at the
never
register
saw
or
any of
whatever.
my,
Yeah.
yeah, I never saw any of my classmates. I never saw none of my friends. Some people knew where I worked,
Mhm.
but that was my way to keep money in my pocket, to make sure I could still, buy my J's every other week or so when I, got paid. And that was my first job. So yeah,
Did you have
man.
to do like, I mean, what was it like? Like, did you do like a camp out for them pairs, or like for that first pair, or were you lucky to just walk in and cop? Like,
Yeah. So when I was in college,
mhm.
I camped out for a few pairs, but back then we would go to like Foot Locker, DTLR, and they were doing the raffle tickets.
Mhm.
So I would ask a bunch of my roommates, a bunch of friends outside of school, if you have time, can you go to the mall? Can you go to the Foot Locker? And just put your name in the hat for me. I would just wish for the best. Um, and so the camping out days, I remember there was a one specific mall, it was a DTLR. Some people may know this, but some DTLRs did raffles, some DTLRs, did first come first serve. It
Mhm.
depended on the manager. But there was one particular mall where I worked, and that particular one they did first come first serve on specific shoes. And I remember actually they're around here somewhere. I think they're up there, kind of high. But the Copper 17s, I
Mhm.
remember camping out for those um, for no reason. I don't. I think I was just I wanted those shoes because I saw Michael Jordan wearing them,
Hmm.
but they were like $250. Crazy. But I remember camping out for those specifically, and I think where else did I camp out for?
I
I
mean,
think we were.
that copper the copper 17s were hot. I mean, in my opinion, like
They were just too expensive though,
they.
man.
I
Two
mean, yeah,
fifty.
250 is very wide. Like even with the TPU, whatever it's called on the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that being like actual copper, and you being like, yo, that's why it's cost. Like that's why it costs an extra like 50 above.
Right.
Like
It's crazy,
yo.
man. Yeah. So I don't wear that shoe, but I'll probably keep it. Just because it's an OG and it's a clean shoe, but it's not my style anymore. So.
And, like, what was your? Were you like? Did your school? That's what I wanted to ask. Like, did your school have a sneaker scene like in Morgan State, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Morgan State
yeah, yeah,
University.
yeah, yeah. I didn't know my bad. I was gonna say I was about to be like
Oh, you
Morgan
good?
University, like yeah, Morgan State. But like, did Morgan State have like a sneaker community, or was just people just like whatever about it during that
No,
time?
it was definitely So back then, people were working.
Hmm.
A lot of well, not everyone, but a lot of students had jobs. So as far as the releases that would come out, people always would have the newer releases. I wasn't a part of any particular sneaker community myself. Um, I kept my group kind of tight. Um, And my friends, I would probably say that I might have influenced them a little bit because of my addiction.
Hmm.
I'm asking them to, help me get tickets, and you know, if you don't want these shoes, hey, can you enter on sneakers for me? It ultimately, became their kind of addiction.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, I kept my group kind of tight. I didn't really had a lot of time to spend on campus, meeting a lot of people in various sneaker communities. But my friends definitely were into shoes because of me, I think.
You passed on the addiction, like here you go, like I'm gonna give you a
Yeah,
taste of
yeah,
what it's like, and
yeah,
then
man.
and
It's
then
just a good feeling, man. Just to have that new Jordan.
Mhm.
And a lot of my friends growing up weren't as fortunate. And seeing that if you can get a job and I'm showing you ways to acquire these shoes. I can help you with shoes I might not want, or we can have other friends who might not be interested in shoes can help us. And we can grow, as a community within ourselves and helping each other out. So
No,
yeah.
yeah, I mean that's what it's about. I think that if you build a community around you, that's your little sneaker community, then everybody, everybody's dope together. Like I think that yeah, it just gets a little bit tougher when you're trying to like, now it's like everything's all social. So like everything's all on social. So it gets a little muddled out of like trying to be
Yeah.
like, oh, you have good intentions, like are you gonna help me? Like, there's barely anybody. And I mean, I only have like a couple friends that'll be down to do this, but like, us helping people, like assisting people, helping
Hmm.
people with an assist, which is so rare nowadays, but like it before it was about that, like people, if you had people online and you made friends online and they miss out on their size, but they're ahead of you, and you can be like, yo man, I'm looking for a 12 or a 13, can you, like, if you're not able to get your size, can you help me out? Like that was so common back then, you
Yeah,
know.
and unfortunately, I think the resale market has kind of you know killed the idea of having these communities of friends and folks who can help each other out, build their collection.
Mhm.
Because unfortunately, there's value with pretty much not pretty much everything, but a lot of what's coming out. The hype releases, if you may,
Mhm.
have value. And people are aware of StockX now and Go, and even eBay. They see what these shoes are selling for. So if you're interested in a shoe and you ask your friend, they're going to check the market before they agree to help you. So when you build those relationships, um, you know, long term, and people realize that it's not about the money, it's about that friendship. Um, that's how your collection can truly grow. And I think that's a big part of why I have so many shoes because people like Anthony and I have a younger brother who helps me out.
Mhm.
My good friend Terrell and Ricard and even my wife, just having so many individuals, I like to call them human bots, if you may, where they can actually just enter on sneakers because they know I love shoes so much. And I try to always give back, and help them as much as I can. Um, and that's one of the reasons why I have so many of what I have, man. Very, very fortunate, very appreciative of it.
No, yeah, I mean, looking for the listeners, Tappan has like a gajillion sneakers behind him right now, and it's making me very jealous. So yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
is there any particular shoes that you might want to see? I can put them out for you, man.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Maybe,
Okay, okay,
maybe after. But
okay.
but did you amass this collection during college, or like was this like a post college thing? Because like I've heard people, like I've had previous guests on. They would talk about moving out of the dorms and just having piles and piles of sneakers. So like what was that for you?
So for me, I definitely started, like I said, in 2009. My mom probably created this monster. She probably doesn't realize it. When I got these Cherry 12s,
Hmm.
um, and then from there, the phone posits. And I won't say just my mom, my parents for sure. My phone posits collection began to grow. And then post high school, when I got to college, it kind of slowed down my freshman year. I was playing
Hmm.
football. Shoes just weren't a priority. But once I started working at Walmart, man, it was pretty much every check I was buying a pair of shoes.
Hmm.
One thing my dad told me when I was young, um, he always worked, in the corporate world. He would buy a tie or a shirt
Hmm.
every check. So he has a bunch of ties, a bunch of dress shirts, pretty much one for every day of the year.
Hmm.
For me, that's stuck, but it's stuck with shoes.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you. I'm not gonna say every week, but even I have that philosophy, and it's probably not as healthy to buy so many pairs.
I'm there with you, man. My first job, bro, I was working at GameStop. I was making like $6 an hour working at
Right?
GameStop. Every check, I was like, "Yep, this is it."
Yeah.
Like,
That, and that's probably how I acquired so many. And again, having a lot of friends and family who how we look out for each other. I wouldn't have as many if they weren't entering in these sneaker raffles or helping me out on sneakers because I can't get all these shoes by myself with one account, right? You
Mhm.
definitely got to have a little help and assistance, especially with the sneaker community growing over the past years with COVID and
Mhm.
you know everything that's happened. Definitely my friends have looked out tremendously. So I would definitely say since 2009 and ongoing, man. I have a grill coming in next week that I can't wait for. Maybe we could talk about that offline.
Yeah, okay. We definitely gonna have to. But yeah, I mean, like the idea of just because I mean, even thinking about like back when I first started and I started collecting like 2006, 2000, like around 2006. Um, and yeah, because that's when I got my first job. Yeah. I'm thinking I had to think back, but like my little I was like taking pictures all the time of my little like 4 boxes and being like, yeah,
Hmm.
this is crazy. Like this is the idea of just like sharing the growth of your collection over time. Like
Yeah.
I don't know where you if you were a part of like doing that and posting on like Photo Bucket and posting it online and being like, yo, I got another pair in. Like
I think,
that was dope back then.
yeah, I don't remember photo bucket. Sorry.
I'm dating
Um,
myself.
Um, but I do remember, when I would get new pairs, I would definitely take pictures with them and I would make them, my profile picture.
Hmm.
I remember having, I think, one of my first Instagram photos was pictures with my shoes and,
Hmm.
my profile photo. I would have, shoes kind of like by my head, like talking to them and things like that. The goofy old, photos that, I probably wouldn't take today.
Hmm.
But yeah, man. Buying shoes and showing them off was definitely something we were doing younger, not even realizing what was going to happen as we progress and grow, man. It's crazy.
No, yeah, the way that it took off after once Instagram started and Twitter started as well. Just I've had a couple people on here that were like early sneaker Twitter and I'm early sneaker Instagram, but I never really like jumped on it hard. Well, like you've seen the picture where like people have a pair of lobsters and they got the lobster on the plate and then they put the
Hmm.
lobsters around the plate and you're like, man, what's going? And then or people jumping in puddles, freeze framing the puddles, and it's like, yo,
Yeah,
on the SDs today. I'm like, man, I would have never like that was ridiculous. I can't I
Yeah,
couldn't even think about doing that now, man. Like
yeah. Those were definitely some fun times, man. People were so creative with the content. You know, just seeing those people probably inspired me, to start my page, and so I can, show that the collective post that people would put together. That's
mhm.
probably would help start tap in for the most part.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like, what was the spark? Like, what was that moment where you were like, "All right, I'm gonna start doing this"? Because I know you touched on it in the beginning, to put your family on, but like, what was the one post you were like, or I just want to know about like that spark that just hit you and you're like, I'm gonna do this. And
Yeah,
what was
man.
it gonna be
So
about?
so in college, I was heavy on YouTube, watching people like Bull RC, um, Mr. Homer Simpson,
Mhm.
Kais Omar. These are some head honchos in the community. Harrison
Legends.
Neville.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So watching them, I initially wanted to do YouTube. Um, but being in front of the camera just wasn't my thing.
Hmm.
Um, so I was trying to think of some other ways that I could kind of be impactful in the sneaker community. So Instagram, I'm not sure if you follow, Z Sneakerheads,
Yep.
Sneaker Bar Detroit.
Hmm.
These are individuals who aren't really showing their face, but they're able to still find a way to be involved in the sneaker community. So I said, okay, I can do that. The name it's pretty much, I'm tapped into the sneaker community. So
Hmm.
I, came up with the name, hey, Tap In Kicks. Growing up, I was always someone my friends and family would reach out to, hey man, is this shoe coming out? Where can I go get it? Do you know anything about this release? Is this legit? Da 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 da. So I was that source for a lot of my friends and family,
Hmm.
and I was always tapped in. So that's how the name came, Tap In Kicks. And now, like I said, we just crossed over 50,000 followers, and things are going well. I had the opportunity to co-host SneakerCon DC
Wow.
a couple months ago.
Hmm.
It's pretty cool, man. I decided to just reach out via DM and say, hey, I'd like to come out, capture the event. Maybe I can create some content, and provide that to you all. And whatever happens, happen. They reached back out to me and said, yeah, we would love that. And I actually got in contact with the host of the event,
Hmm.
dude named Jabari,
Hmm.
cool guy. They actually put me in a hotel for the
Damn.
weekend, and I was able to, have free access to the event for 2 days. Um, I got to, meet a lot of the, head honchos in the community. Like I said, Z
Hmm.
Sneakerheads, cool guy. Can't wait to talk with him again. Just able to network. I was able to, go on stage while they were doing contests and throwing out merch and giving out
Hmm.
free shoes. And it was just a great experience, man. That's something that, I thought to help with the sneaker community has allowed me to, make so many new friends and, be a part of SneakerCon. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. I recently went to go see Wu Tang live, and they also like SneakerCon had like a little activation there,
right.
and they were giving away sneakers, and I got pulled up on stage to and got a free pair of sneakers. So
Wow.
yeah, I think maybe I might have met Jabari, but like I met the two hosts that
Yeah.
hosted, and hopefully I get them on the podcast. But SneakerCon definitely has evolved because like into something. I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's I mean not to be like super hypercritical about it, but the it's like kind of like overtaken by resale, and it's like
Hmm.
how do we bring back, because I know it's like the intentions are good, right? But you also
Yeah.
have to sell tickets, so I understand where it's coming from. And but it's like, a convention is definitely more based around like the culture and what it can breathe out into the culture,
Hmm.
And I think that there's definitely need to be a more bigger presence in terms of just like not just and not like to knock any other of the like social influencers that they like got into sneakers because of TikTok, but a lot of that is like, well, what about the older heads that would be like, they've been in the sneakers, writing about sneakers for years, but they don't get no love. And then it's like, and then it's also just like, a lot of these people are just here trying to get like a good deal But it was like what having it like having conversations with everybody at like a
Yeah,
convention, you know what I mean? Like you when you go to like a Comic-Con or something, like nobody's just there to just like I mean, I get you got to get the exclusive stuff that's only there sometimes, but you can actually like stop and talk to cosplayers and be like, "Yo, I love X-Men." Like, like I think that's
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of that is like, missing, and I wish that could come back a little bit more to SneakerCon also.
Yeah, I agree. SneakerCon is, it's still a great event, man.
Hmm.
You don't always have to go and buy. You can definitely just go and see, a lot of the unreleased shoes. You can see a lot of the shoes that you remember from years back. And like, man, I
Hmm.
haven't seen that shoe in years. You can go see a rare shoe that you only see, at these high-end sneaker stores that you can't really touch.
Hmm.
Nike Air Max, Nike Easy Twos.
Hmm.
So going to these events, you can actually see and hold these shoes, something that people might not have ever had the opportunity to do. And as far as buying, man, my advice is all if so if there's a 2 day event,
Hmm.
I would always go the second day.
Right.
Um, Now there's some pros and cons with that. Going the second day, some vendors might not be there, all right, and also some of the shoes that might have been available day one might
Hmm.
not be available day two. But if you're going and you're looking for, nothing crazy, but a shoe that's probably available, like maybe like white cement threes or
Hmm.
I don't know, panda dunks, right? You go that second day, and a lot of these vendors are from out of town, and they don't want to
Yeah, I
have to
don't want to
take all
carry
this
that stuff
inventory.
back.
They don't want to take
Yeah.
all the inventory back. When you go the second day, you might save $1 or two. And if he had that shoe for 200 on Saturday, he might be willing to sell it for 160 on Sunday.
Hmm.
So if you're going to buy, I would definitely go day two. If you have tickets for both events, I would just scope Saturday. If there's something that you just have to have on Saturday, by all means go get it. But on
Yeah.
Sunday, if you can wait, I would buy or I would look to purchase items on Sunday. That's my in my opinion, that's the way to do it.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, but listen, if you have Grail money and you coming out the gate hot, you like, no, I'm going there to buy my Grails, and you have like 2K in your pocket, you might as
Yeah,
well just buy the damn Grail on Saturday. Like,
yeah, for sure. Because you never know that shoe might not be there, man.
yeah,
So
exactly. That I
yeah,
mean but yeah, I mean, Sneaker Con, then you have Got Souls that are out there, and
got sold
everybody.
is on the come up, man.
Yeah, everybody is definitely like, those two are like the main big ones that are traveling around and stuff like that. I feel like SneakerCon is cool because they actually have like brands that pull up. That's what I
Yeah,
think is cool. I think Got Soul is like ridiculously just like mad resellers on that one. That's like
yeah.
is entirely resellers on that one.
Yeah,
Which I mean,
I
look,
haven't had
yeah.
I haven't had the opportunity to go to Got Soul just yet, but
Hmm.
they're more so in LA and in New York, right?
Hmm. They're like the
Yeah, I don't think
bigger the bigger ones. Yeah, there's one this weekend. I'm not going. I'm
they're
not
in
going.
LA, right?
No, in New York.
Oh, they're in New York. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to go to Got Soul yet because I don't think they've been to DC.
And I
So
feel have they? I think maybe a
I don't
while
know.
ago. I don't know. I don't know. But I mean, look, it's dope that you're able to jump on stage and do put like I mean, people definitely want to put a face to a name, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So it's dope. Like your content is very like super ahead of the curve in terms of just like being the first of like seeing unreleased stuff and stuff like that. So it when it's like it's kind of like seeing like a how do I explain it? It's like when you go to like when you go to like a flight club and like you
hmm
see the manager and he talks to you. That's how it
hmm
feels like when you like you're
yeah,
like you're like you're like you're like, yo man, that's dope, man. Yo, you get to touch all these crazy kicks, like
yeah. It's all about who you know, man. Building relationships are so important.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, I have Jabari's, personal contact. I can hit him up and, we can chat about shoes. We can talk about how was the sneaker con this
Mhm.
past weekend. So yeah, man, definitely having connections is very important. They can help you get that shoe that you might be looking for a reasonable price. So yeah,
Yeah,
man.
I mean it's wild that I mean sneakers has come such a like a long way, and it's interesting how like how mainstream it is now. Like this was such a little like I was called a nerd at one point for liking sneakers.
Yeah, yeah. It's a source. It's a source of income. I think that's the main thing now. There's money to be made on a lot of different shoes, and once people call wind of that, it was over with. So
Mhm.
I will say, the fire, to acquire some shoes isn't the same anymore.
Mhm.
Because back then, because I remember like when Yeezys, or, well, not the Nike Yeezys, but the Adidas Yeezys, when they first came out, the 750s, and
750s, yeah.
oh my gosh, man, when those came out, getting having those in your possession, it just felt like you were on top of the world, right? And same thing with like 350s when they first dropped.
Mhm.
I remember when I first got my first 350s, man, I had took them out the box on my way home, and I had when I was driving home, I put him in the passenger seat and put the seatbelt on him. You know what I'm saying? Like it was one of those types of moments, man. Just overly ecstatic to have that pair. But
Mhm.
nowadays, it's just like, okay, well, just put them in the cases. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Yeah.
the same fire, but it's still fun. I still do it, here and there. So
You still putting it in the passenger seat? Like
here and there, it depends. Like SneakerCon, I did pick up a girl there, and I
Mhm.
did put those in the passenger seat.
I
So.
mean, the it's like nothing beats that like moment where you get a pair you just like, yo, I've been looking for this damn shoe for years, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that's a lot of that definitely goes missing nowadays because there's so much that just keeps releasing, you know?
Hmm.
You're and it's like, oh, if you don't get this one, it's don't worry about it. Next week they're gonna, you're gonna see something else that you want. So
Yeah.
it's like you're always gonna end up not having money. Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I I mean I see all these kids on like, TikTok and Instagram and they're just like, yeah, Dooms are my grails and they'll spend 2K on a pair of Dooms and you're just like, whoa, whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Like you could have bought like 7 pairs of sneakers. You don't even know
Yeah.
who MF Doom is. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild. I mean, like, listen, I'll tell you, everybody back in the day, everybody loved the 11s. I mean, look, you showed them just now recently, and
Yeah,
we
man.
talked about it before we jumped on about everybody has a pair of grails that just like some people don't like them. Like I'm not a big fan of 11s, but it's more based on a story and the feel of the shoe than just me and like hating to hate because you'll see people make content and they'll just be like, yeah, you not a real sneakerhead. I don't like your shoes that you like, and get that shit out of here. But
Yeah. Yeah.
like I mean, what is your love with what is your fascination with the 11s?
Oh man. So for me, the Concord 11, this is probably the top five shoe in my collection.
Hmm.
I want to say these came out in 2011. These are the low cuts, not the 40, not with the 45 on the back. These
Hmm.
have the 23. Yeah, man, this shoe in particular, I got it for Christmas back in 2011. Quick
Hmm.
story. My godmother, Count Conway's mom, um, she would always ask me every year when I was younger, "Hey, what do you want for Christmas?" Of course, I'm gonna say, "Hey, I want the new J's coming out, the new
Hmm.
11s coming out." Um, so I had hit up my cousin Terrence, and this is back when Jordans were coming out at midnight,
Hmm.
right? And of course, my parents weren't gonna let me stay out at midnight. My best chance was to get them online at midnight, but I wasn't the best at securing the shoe, putting them in my cart and checking out. I wasn't the best at that. And to be honest, I don't even think I had a credit card or debit card back then. So acquiring a shoe, I would definitely have to wait until after they drop, go to the store,
Hmm.
or I would have to ask somebody to help me. So in this particular instance, I asked my cousin Terrence to help me out. So my mom dropped me off at his house around like 10:30 or so.
Hmm.
Um, I had I think 200 or so back then, had the $200 cash. We went to the bank, put the money in his account, and we just waited, right? We went back to his friend's house. We had pizza. We were playing games. Back then, we were playing like Grand Theft Auto, just letting the time go by.
Right.
Um, and around like, 11:30, we're all, huddled around the kitchen table with our laptops out. Well, he and his friends were huddled around the table with their laptops out. Um, and he actually secured his 10 and a half and my 13. It was crazy. It
Wow.
was a rainy night.
Hmm.
We were a little nervous that the power might go out. And actually, some of his friends didn't actually get lucky.
Mhm.
And me asking him, I asked him maybe a month in advance, like, "Yo, I need your help getting my pair. Make sure when the time comes, we make that, a possibility." So yeah, man, that's my story with these. I'm never going to wear them. I want these to yellow at the bottom. I like that yellow age look with the OG Concords.
Mhm.
And this shoe will always, be special to me because of how I acquired them. All of it, all of what it took to get them.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, this that's my fascination with 11s.
I mean, look, that's a way better than my story of my first 11s, and I mean, I've told it on here a bunch, but like, that's really dope. I think that it's you made it a family affair, and I love that. Like, I never got a chance to do that because I didn't have family that was into sneakers. So
Yeah,
like being huddled around a bunch of laptops and being like, yo, we're gonna get these tonight,
yeah,
and
man.
yeah, that I mean, I'll give you a quick story about why I don't like the 11s. One, they're too heavy for me. All right,
Okay.
all right. Columbia 11s come out for the All Star. I think I don't know when it was, 2013 or something like that. The white that's the white with the icy blue bottoms, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
so they get they drop. I go to Foot Locker on 42nd Street, Times Square, and I'm like, you know what? Let me put in a ticket for these. These are gonna be my first 11s if I get them. Whatever. Get the message. Yo, you won. Come down at 11 a.m. to pick up your pair. Right. Pull up. I see that there's a barricade and there's
Mm.
like 50 people in it, and I'm like, what? The 50 becomes like close to like 600 people at one point.
Wow.
Apparently, or it looked like that to me, right? And I'm there at 11. I jump into this barricade. I'm in there. I like squeeze my way up to like the front or whatever. And they're like, and then I'm seeing it and I'm just like, all right, cool. They're probably going to let us in like 30 minutes and we'll get our sneakers. Bro, I was there for 7 hours.
I thought you had a ticket.
They had the ticket and they just weren't letting anybody in. And then
Wow.
and then by the time I finally got my sneakers, I was like, I don't like Jordan 11s anymore. So they became my
Oh
beaters
man.
immediately after that. I was like, I'm wearing this wherever. I still have them. They're
Yeah.
my snowshoes.
Oh wow. Well, I'm sorry. The time when you came up with your 11s, it wasn't the best, but those Legend Blues or Columbias, those were clean, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wore them. I was like, yeah, they're nice. But I was like, man, they gave me the pinky toe problems, and I was just like,
Oh
no. And then I was just like, man, this shoe is like cursed, and I was just like, whatever. I finally broke them in. I think like 3 years ago. They were like, all right, cool. So then I just wore them whenever, and then I wore them, and they started snowing one day, and I wore them in the snow, and I was just like, all right, these are my snowshoes because they like
yeah,
lasted. I was just like, all right, cool, like I'm good to go.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
all right, so also asked another question. We're about to round down to the end of the podcast, and I asked another question, and this one deals with visualization, right? So I want you to think about, you when you were younger, you're about to get the cherry 12s, right?
Hmm.
You got them in your hand as a young kid. You're about to open that box, but you're you. There's a time machine that took you all the way back. You're standing behind yourself. What would you tell your younger self as they open that box?
Cherish that shoe. Enjoy that shoe. Um, don't make that shoe a habit. um, and just appreciate what you have in front of you in the moment. I think that shoe definitely created, as I said, a monster. I don't regret it. But who knows, if that shoe wasn't acquired, what would I have done, or what would I, be into now?
Hmm.
So yeah, man, I would definitely tell myself to cherish that shoe, love that shoe, um, and just enjoy that moment. Yeah,
Man, perfectly said. Shout out to young Tapin, and for everybody out there. Well, first of all, thank you for jumping on. I almost forgot to
yeah,
say thank you for jumping on. And for everybody out there, you know what we say each week. wear your kicks. Peace. Well, Tappin won't wear his 11s, but he'll wear the other ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Peace.
All right, salute, baby.